Hello and welcome to the Traveler's Void. I'm Kaobi, your PvE specialist, and, today is going to be an interesting one. I'm gonna probably not be very capable of holding a long conversation like we usually do. I've been dealing with an illness for a little while, and this is the episode I'm saying something about it because it might actually affect it.
Maybe if you would stop, staying up all night playing Destiny, trying to get the numbers for the podcast, maybe you'd actually feel better.
Hey.
And I am Liana, the person who plays way too much PvP, tried to quit the game a week ago, yet came back the other day, because I'm addicted to it. And I couldn't help myself.
Oh boy. So today is our PvP cycle episode. And I think today we're going to touch on a few topics, including Stasis, the general PvP meta, and Trials being cancelled yet again. To be clear about the Trials cancellation, it's not what will be current Trials during the weekend that this video is posted. It was the previous week. We just fell behind by a little bit. Things are happening.
For context, it is March 18th. We are going to be addressing the trials of the previous weekend. So this would be the weekend of the 12th that we're talking about.
Correct.
The weekend of the 19th, which is tomorrow, will still have trials, and we will be talking about that and addressing that as well, because they have already tweeted how they're going to fix what canceled it originally.
Right.
I do want to just note real quick, props to Bungie. Grandmasters are doing great.
Absolutely. Grandmasters are fun as hell.
How they did adept farming, how they did adept mod farming, even though I've done 5 Grandmasters and gotten no adept swarm and no adept mods.
I think I've completed 2, attempted 3, got 2 adept swarms and 1 adept mod.
But I'm not upset that I did those 5 Grandmasters. It was a lot of fun, and I give Bungie a lot of props, because I haven't done Grandmasters in a long time, and now I actually enjoy doing them, so.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, there's something to chase now, and that's, I think, what makes Grandmasters fun now. But you're right, that's a PvE topic, and we're on a PvP episode today.
But, let's talk about Trials. So Trials, the weekend of the 12th, got canceled again, because of the same reason it got canceled before, which was win trading.
With a twist this time.
With a very big twist this time. Because of, I think a lot of this is due to people figuring out how the 9-man Nightfalls or 12-person raids were set up. Fiddling around with that rejoin functionality, people found out another way to win trade by using the rejoin functionality.
Yeah.
So for the weekend of the 19th, which starts tomorrow, Bungie's actually disabled it. You will not be able to have any rejoin functionality for this upcoming weekend of Trials, and I think it's a smart move.
Right.
Until they figure out a fix.
It perfectly solves. That might just be the fix. That might be what stays as the fix. It perfectly solves the issue that was going on, which is. Before, in the previous cancellation, where it was canceled for 2 weeks, was people were using burner accounts to leave and rejoin on their main account if they gambled and successfully won their roll the dice thing to see who wins the round. Mm-hmm. This time that it had gotten canceled, they were not even using burner accounts. They were just using alternate characters on the same account. And that's how bad it was. That's why it got canceled within a day. It started Friday, ended Saturday morning.
I will say, though, we better have an adept weapon up this time, Bungie.
I doubt it. I doubt that we're going to have the adept weapon, because it's probably going to continue to keep the same pattern.
Then we should still have an adept weapon, because we missed a week.
Did we?
And then we missed a week, and then Bungie, when they brought it back before they canceled it, we had adept messenger up.
Yeah, for
honestly,
1 day.
I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Bungie brings back the same rewards as last week. So Igneous at 5, Arms at 3, I don't remember what 7 was, and then a Messenger Adept, and say, here's your chance to actually go for it.
Well, we did also skip 2 weeks, and they haven't rerun that reward set, and have not said anything.
Yes, but we missed one set of flawlesses. Well, no, because the first cancellation. Remind me of the date of the first cancellation.
The date of the first cancellation would have been if the second cancellation was on the 13th, the weekend of the 5th and 6th, and then also the weekend of the 26th and 27th were canceled. So the 26th and 27th was what initially canceled it, and they kept it canceled 5th and 6th.
The 26th and the 27th was Igneous Hammer weekend.
Yeah. And then the 5th
so the next weekend would have been Armor, which doesn't matter. You only miss out on Adept mods.
Right.
And then this the weekend where they thought they had it fixed, which would have actually been a detriment to loot. They had it for a day, and that was Messenger Adept.
Yeah.
So now this upcoming weekend, in theory, it would be Armor, but I hope Bungie decides to rerun what they had last week, and then next week we'll get Armor.
I am expecting that they will just make this one be Armor, and next week will be a weapon again. And the Adept Messenger and the Adept Igneous, I don't imagine those are going to return. Like, in past Bungie history, there have been very few instances where they've rerun loot like that, but they do occasionally do it. It's not common.
It's true.
It is not common. Is not, so I would not expect.
To clarify, this is not me saying this is what Bungie is going to do. This is me personally going, I hope this is what happens tomorrow. It might not, but this is what I hope goes on.
If you were a gambling viewer, I would say don't put any money on them rerunning it. I would say keep it on the I would say definitely keep it
bet on black
on the Armor. And then not rerunning the Igneous Hammer and Messenger Adept until they would have normally come back in the rotation, which may not happen till the end of the season.
I will say, I hope that since now we have Grandmasters, and Grandmasters allow you to farm Adept mods, I hope Bungie has fixed the issue with Adept farming weapons in Trials.
Where you can actually run multiple flawlesses without...
Where you can actually go multiple Yep. I hope Bungie has fixed this issue, because if not, then Grandmasters have a definite advantage for farming the mods. And you can get every single mod. Yeah. The only one I have not seen someone get from a GM is an Adept Ick Grip.
And that's just because nobody has gotten lucky enough yet in your group.
That could be, exactly. I'm not saying it hasn't happened yet. That's just what I've seen. I haven't seen anyone... I'm sure someone already has gotten an Adept Ick Grip, but I've already seen Adept Reload, Mag, and all those other mods. So... Yeah.
Actually, I got an Adept Mag on my first drop. I got an Adept Swarm with Adept Mag.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a great set of perks, especially with a Bottomless Grief on the Adept Swarm. Fantastic roll.
You never run out of ammo as long as you're the last person up.
Right, but if you're solo, you're always the last person up. I don't think it works. I don't think Bottomless Grief triggers that way.
I wish it did though, because that'd be great.
Yeah. No, if LMGs ever come to actually be important for damage, whether they turn out to get a champion mod like swords have occasionally, or if they turn out to get a buff that makes them really good for a sustained DPS, a Vorpal Weapon Swarm with any of the Adept mods will do definitely a good roll.
Anti-barrier machine gun.
Yeah, right? But currently, we've never seen that happen, so...
Yeah, so far the only heavy weapons we've seen are... I'm not going to count sniper rifle, but sword.
Yeah.
Bungie is starting to branch out on that, but we'll see.
Definitely.
But anyway, that's Trials being canceled again. Hopefully this weekend of the 19th will be fun. It'll be interesting. I'll have to talk to my fire teams that I usually play with and see how it went, because I'm only going to be here for Friday, so I don't know how they're going to go. But we'll see. I'll try and go flawless on Friday and see what I can pull off. But moving from Trials, let's just talk about PvP as a whole. So, I want to ask you a genuine question, KOB. When was the last time you played PvP and actually had fun?
Discounting Mayhem weeks.
Yeah.
Shit. There have been a couple of times lately, but that only depends on if you count invasions as PvP in Gambit.
No. Crucible.
Like,
non-rotating Crucible playlists.
If you want to go pure Crucible, I think in playlist play, the last time I remember actually being like, yeah, I'm having fun with Crucible was like year 1 when I was considering actually getting good at PvP. Outside of that, I played some private matches in like the last 3 weeks that were kind of fun. We like 1v1 with hilarious, ridiculous builds. I murked a dude with a 0 power fucking Traveler's Chosen.
Props to you. But obviously I play a lot more PvP than you do. That's not a secret.
Right. I play kind of the minimum that challenges require for me, and
you play. I would say you play what, 3 matches a week, and then 10 when you have to do seasonal challenges.
I play as much as it takes for me to do those seasonal challenges, or if I get asked by anybody to go play with them, I will generally say, yeah, all right, I'll play a couple of rounds. Or when Iron Banner's around, I'll play that a couple of times a day for the whole week.
Get your pinnacles.
Yeah.
I play a lot, and that's not a secret. And I talk very passionately about PvP and how much fun it is and how I enjoy it and everything else. And I will say, not having trials has been a big demotivator in terms of actually playing Destiny. I know that me and my clan have talked about it, and we're like, man, I really don't know.
I hear that's a pretty big sentiment across the board for PvP, large-time PvP players, people who play PvP across, like that. That is their main thing that they do across 90% of their playtime with Destiny. That they just don't know what to do with themselves when Trials is canceled.
I don't know, it's just that it feels like PvE players have a lot when it comes to... The one thing that made Trials unique was Adept Weapons, and I'm all for Adept Weapons in Grandmasters. Don't take this as me saying I'm not. But now that Adept Mods and Adept Weapons can come from Grandmasters, the only thing you're playing Trials for is the loot, and if Trials keeps getting disabled every week, we can't go for that loot. So there's no PvP incentive.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some players out there that sit there and they'll grind out and they'll just play Rumble and everything else. And if you're one of those players, props to you. But that's not how I want to play Destiny. So we'll see how this weekend goes, obviously. But PvP as a whole is in a shit place right now. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Largely speaking, I would agree. In my experience with it, it's not been a pleasant experience for players like me who tend to not use special ammo for the sake of actually not feeding the special ammo economy that is awful. Actually, in our first episode, there was a segment in the recording that I made a note of, and actually, if you watched that video, there's a portion when we're talking about Iron Banner where in 33 seconds, counting your drop that you drop when you died, there were 9 special ammo drops that were picked up and used by all players that that ended up engaged with you.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, for context, if for people that if you aren't very familiar with what we're talking about, we're not talking about the recording. We're talking about the background footage of the video. What KOB is saying is that within 33 seconds of that one portion of that video, when we started talking about Iron Banner, 9 separate entities of special ammo dropped. That is
a 33-second segment from the first special ammo drop to Liana dying and dropping her special ammo.
It is ludicrous how much special drops.
Yeah. And most of it got used.
Exactly. This was a problem in Destiny 1. We have talked about this. I am so in favor of the special crate system coming back. So in favor.
I think we talked about that last time. Last PvP episode.
It creates contention. It creates people. It makes people move and everything else. But the biggest thing, honest to God, right now is just don't let, especially in round-based game modes like survival and trials. If someone dies and they revive, strip them of special. Don't let them have special ammo.
I feel like a similar sort of system needs to be discussed for something like Gambit as well, which is suffering from a lot of the PvP meta problems in a different way.
Yeah. And we could talk about that. I vote we talk about Gambit.
I feel like we need to do a mixed PvP PvE episode anytime we want to talk about Gambit.
I should. I should. I agree. I vote we do the next episode. We'll do a Gambit episode.
The episode following the next episode, because the following episode,
exactly.
Next PvE episode is our Stasis PvE episode, which is probably going to be the shortest one.
And we haven't really talked about this in terms of Gambit episodes, but I think from this point going forward, we'll do a Gambit episode every 4 episodes.
Or however often, if something massive changes.
Or if something massive happens, then we'll address it.
But Gambit is kind of the redheaded stepchild right now, so.
Hey, just because I dyed my hair red doesn't mean you have to call me out, okay?
Hey, I didn't even know you did that, so.
But back to PvP.
Yeah.
We have talked about this now for fucking years at this point, but we have honed our thoughts into 3 main bullet points that we're going to discuss. And the 3 things that are affecting PvP right now are 120 hand cannons, Felwinter's Lie, and weapon variants. Those are the 3 massive issues. And we're going to talk about every weapon archetype and how it performs and everything else. We will. And then we're going to talk about Stasis, which I can't wait.
The weapon variants issue is one that I actually have something to say on. Not necessarily that I don't have anything to say about Felwinter's or the 120s, but usually I'm on the receiving end of that, so I don't have really any room to speak to Felwinter's use and 120's use. I just haven't bothered to get good with the 120s yet. But the weapon variants, it kind of is annoying to always get killed by the same weapons over and over and over again, especially when there's something like a Felwinter's, where you didn't necessarily quote-unquote earn it, especially with recently where it was added to the exotic archive. And with even with the quest, it was basically free. You had to go get like 300 shotgun kills total for your own personal involvement in it, and then it was a community thing.
You spent 10 minutes at Shirochi.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was basically free, and that's the problem. Is it's a massively consistent, highly powerful weapon that was free. And that is the problem with the weapon variants thing, is your energy slot is dedicated to Felwinter's. It is not an energy weapon slot, it is a Felwinter's Lie slot. And then you put whatever kinetic you want to put in there, usually a 120 hand cannon.
Someone was talking to me recently, and they're like, could you imagine if Astral Horizon was acquired the way Felwinter's was, and Felwinter's was your trial shotgun? And I was like, holy shit. That would have changed everything if Felwinter's was the trial shotgun. It would have changed so much. That's just not how it came out, but
I don't feel like it would have... It would have changed things, yes, but I feel like it would still be the problem weapon that it is. It would have taken more to earn it.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
But to come back to the weapon variants part of this discussion, I'm fine with seeing the same, 4 weapons of an archetype, like four different shotguns, be the thing that kills me. Things like Duskrock Blues, Hawthorne's Field Forge, and all those from back in the day.
Like in Forsaken, it was always Retold Tale, Duskrock Blues, which is kind of the same gun in a different slot, but those 2, and then you had Hawthorne's and Chaperone.
Yeah.
Obviously Chaperones never fell off, but those 4 were the ones that you commonly saw. And Mindbenders. How could we forget Mindbenders?
And Mindbenders once the nightfall started to roll around. And that was fine, because to get a God roll Mindbenders, to get a workable roll of DRB, to get a good Hawthorne's Field Forge, to get Chaperone at all, it took some work. You had to at least invest a little bit of your time into it. And if you got lucky and got on the first try, hey, that's fine. RNG saved your life there for a little bit. You didn't have to invest an hour grinding a Lost Sector for DRB. And that was fine.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
But when it's the same weapon over and over again, and that weapon is basically free, that's when I feel like the weapon variance is a problem.
Exactly. I don't remember how much it is. I wonder if I can look it up in Dim real quick, and I hope I don't have to load into the game. But, Felwinter's, now that it's in the exotic vendor, is so fucking cheap.
Yeah, it's probably not even an Ascendant shard.
It is 75,000 Glimmer, 100 shards, 2 prisms, and 1 shard.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so it's about on par with, I think Mountaintop is that same cost.
No.
No, is Mountaintop a 2-sharder?
It is Mountaintop is 2 shards.
Okay.
And it's 2 shards, 7 cheese sticks, 250 legendaries, and then 150,000 glimmer.
Yeah. I remember buying just because I had excess Ascendant shards. I remember buying the PvP weapons that I just didn't have. Randy's throwing knife, Revoker, Mountaintop, Luna's and Not Forgotten. I feel like I'm forgetting one in between there.
Probably Redrix.
Redrix, yeah.
For context, just for a little bit of context to anyone that is listening, looking at the Legacy gear tab in the Monuments of Lost Light, so there are 2 types of weapons. There is the weapons that cost 150,000 glimmer, and 2 Ascendant shards and 7 enhancement prisms. Those are what we would consider the higher end weapons, and those weapons are Redrix's Broadsword, Not Forgotten, and Mountaintop. Then there's another archetype of weapons, which are 75,000, they are 100 legendary shards, they are 2 enhancement prisms, and 1 Ascendant shard. Now, this goes to weapons like Breakneck, Hush, Point of the Stag, weapons that are actually not, like, broken. They're just nice, consistent weapons to use. Feltwinter's is part of that 75,000 bracket.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
I think that transitions well into the Felwinter's bullet point. I don't have a whole lot of speaking point to say about Felwinter's. I never really got the feel for it because it does have a very constant shot spread. The pellets will always go in pretty much the same pattern, but I just never got a feel for where that was the most effective. So I'm always on the receiving end.
Here's the issue with Feltwinter's. Let's there's a few, but let's start with this one. Pellet distribution. So, shotgun pellets in this game are, in a lot of games, you think of a shotgun pellet as a cone, which is good. That's how most shotguns are. They're in, you can see where the pellets are, and you can draw a cone around them, and you can adjust for spread because of that. Feltwinter's is different. Feltwinter shoots in a star pattern.
Yeah. I can either go back and find the old Season of Opulence screenshots that I took after getting Felwinter's, Season of Worthy. Right, Season of Worthy. I was in the Tribute Hall from Season of Opulence. I can either go back and find those, or I can just take Felwinter's somewhere and my Felwinter's and go shoot a wall or something and demonstrate this, and hopefully I'll remember to do that. I mean, I'll be editing it, so I'll be listening to myself.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, looking at the pellet spread of that gun, it really just shows, like, holy shit. I actually found the images.
Yeah. We probably said the word Felwinter's a lot around it, so it was probably easy to find.
But so sending the images here in Discord real quick, just so we can look at it.
Yeah.
It's a very, very tightly grouped star for Felwinter's.
Yes. More like an asterisk.
Yeah, it's an asterisk. That's a perfect description. And that's what part of what makes Feltwinter. So every other shotgun in this game, there's a cone, and it randomly puts the pellets through the cone. Okay?
Yeah.
Felwinter's doesn't do that.
Right.
The pellets are in a fixed position.
And the spread is different between hipfire and ADS, aim down sights.
Yeah. That is true with every shotgun.
Correct.
Not just Felwinter's.
Correct.
But Felwinter's is so fucking consistent because if you can imagine that asterisk in your mind, you can pretty much land pellets every time. Now, the other problem with Felwinter's is so fucking viable.
Yeah.
Because what high-end PvP players will switch perks on Felwinter's on the fly. So, the most commonly ran setup is typically quick draw opening shot. Mm-hmm. There are some people that use slide shot opening shot, which is fine, and then when supers start to roll out, they'll switch to Vorpal Weapon.
I forgot Felwinter's had Vorpal on it.
Yeah. And
which just means it's a free super shutdown. No wonder I get killed by it.
Yeah, so what hot swapping to a Vorpal Weapon allows, basically, is you can do a shotgun melee and you'll kill a super guaranteed. I think the only one that you can't guarantee if you hit all pellets and do a melee Or, sorry, let me phrase that. The only one where I think you'd have to hit every single pellet, like, in the chest and get a good melee would be Behemoth Titan.
Yeah, with the currently 60% damage resistance.
And once that gets nerfed, that will no longer be a factor.
And we'll touch on that stuff later.
Yeah, especially with the, real quick, just the no more freeze on cast.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, the Behemoth is going to get very shut down a lot more regularly. That isn't to say that it's still not going to be a Behemoth. It's just it'll be
smaller Behemoth.
Yes.
But
be smalleth.
It's a small a mediumeth. But Felwinter's is so adaptable. That is the problem. The issue with Felwinter's is not that it is overpowered, it is so consistent. And the way that we would fix that is we can nerf Felwinters. You know, we could look at maybe, redistributing the pellets and not having them be in a fixed position, just having them be in a tighter cone. But the issue isn't with Felwinters, the issue is with other shotguns. If there were other shotguns that were that consistent, you would never have this problem.
Even slugs don't match with that consistency, because the slug can still fall in that random bullet spread pattern cone. The cone is much tighter on a slug, but it can still be in that cone.
Exactly. And this is why Felwinters is just so fucking used, is because it's easy to acquire, whether you were there or whether you buy it now. And with Bungie's new announcement of sunsetting's no longer a thing, if that is true, my honest to God hope is they delete Felwinters. It's not going to happen, but this is the problem that we've said sunsetting is going to cause now. Because if you go play comp right now, there's still a solid chance you're going to run into someone using a Snapshot Quick Draw Beloved, or a Revoker, or a Not Forgotten. I say this because I've been trying to hit Legend with a couple friends this season for shits and giggles, and we keep seeing these weapons. And this is the problem.
That problem is because sunsetting only caps the highest light they can be. That doesn't matter in playlists where light level doesn't matter. Your control playlist, your clash playlist when it's around, your
literally 80% of your PvP.
Everything that isn't Iron Banner or Trials. So sunsetting never fixed the problem for PvP.
So what Bungie needs to do, honest to God, Bungie needs to bite the bullet like they did with things like Fatebringer and everything else in the back in the day and go, this is too powerful, we're deleting it, or we're making it to where you can't use it.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do. And that's the problem. Bungie, I seriously hope Bungie will actually have the courage to go, Felwinters is too broken, or, Revoker is still, Revoker isn't that good anymore, but it's still, the perk is still just as broken as it was before. But anyway, this is the problem with Felwinters. I hope it gets addressed.
I don't think they'll delete Felwinters, because that would make the community explode.
We need something like that.
I think what they would do is they'll either nerf it, because they have specifically addressed it in recent TWABs and stuff. They'll either nerf it, or they'll introduce something that competes, which I'm not sure which one I am more afraid of.
I'm afraid of the nerf. I'd much rather have a nerf than something that competes.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have a nerf.
I would much rather have a nerf than have something that competes in the kinetic slot.
Oh, God. Don't even say things like that.
Oh, my goodness. Because if something can compete with Felwinters and it's in the kinetic slot, that opens up whatever this thing is, Felwinter's Kinetic Slam and Felwinter's Lie.
You know what that sets up? So Felwinter's is in the energy slot, right? Mm-hmm. And there's quite a few energy weapons that are really good.
But you can't run those alongside Felwinter's because it's the energy weapon slot. And if we introduce a kinetic Felwinter's spot, or something that competes with Felwinter's in the kinetic slot, you end up with the problem where you can run that and Felwinter's and just even if it's special ammo, that's two highly consistent things that are constantly feeding off of those special drops. And if they're both shotguns, Shotgun Scavenger is going to fill the fuck out of those. It's already a problem as it is with the scavenger mods.
Well, and not on top of that, just kinetic Felwinters, right? Like, we can sit there, we can talk about it, but think about this, okay? If we're talking about shit that never, ever, like, would leave comp, if you give a kinetic Felwinters, congratulations, you have now made Felwinters Not Forgotten a combo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's all the background combos that we're not even considering, like, remove Felwinters, put it in kinetic slot, and then you open up a lot of things to that slot. Or you can double down and get your consistent kinetic thing on par with Felwinters, and then your energy Felwinters.
If we're talking, and seriously, like, legitimately, think about the idea of, shit, what was I gonna say? Oh, if we think about the idea of the current meta, there are a lot of PvP weapons that are incredibly viable that are in that energy slot. Yeah. You give us a primary a kinetic Felwinters, now you're gonna have shit like Felwinters Bottom Dollar, Felwinters Palindrome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which now have adept mods. You're gonna have Felwinters Igneous Hammer Adept.
Yeah, so please, if you're gonna introduce a Bungie, you're not listening, we're too small for that, but if you are, please don't put something in the kinetic slot that competes with Felwinters, and that's your fix for Felwinters.
DMG, I will literally suck your toes with a jar of Nutella. Just do not do this.
Please don't. I didn't realize the can of worms that I had opened when the words left my mouth, but then, oh no.
But this is the problem, Yeah. We don't have enough variants. And that leads us into 120s.
Right. Where the 4 that we have are all completely dominant.
True Prophecy, Igneous Hammer, Bottom Dollar, and...
Steady Hand from Iron Banner.
Steady Hand, thank you. These are god-tier weapons.
Yeah.
Bungie, I understand you want to make 120s compete, but holy shit, do you gotta, you either have to tone down the range, or you have to make it to where none of them can have damage perks.
And we touched on that in the last PvP episode, where the time to kill, we're not sure if the TTK is supposed to be going down recently, with things like Messenger having Desperado, or with the 120s at all, because if you can roll a multi-kill clip on one of the 120s, which you can do with Bottom Dollar, you get 1 kill, reload, you have 2 taps for as long as multi-kill clip stays active.
Not to mention that Igneous Hammer has Rapid Hit Rampage, and that can have Adept Icarus grip.
Yeah. Steady Hand rolls with the Iron Gaze, Iron Grip, those kind of perks that make make that thing a laser when you ADS.
And True Prophecy has Rangefinder Rampage. I have a Rangefinder Rampage True Prophecy.
Yeah. So a lot of these 120s, all of them that we've listed, have some way to boost their own damage just from using the weapon, and then it turns all of them into 2 taps. And that's the Not Forgotten problem all over again.
Remember, Bungie, when we were sitting here and we talked about, man, if only there were people out there that were good with Drang. Because if you were good with Drang, Sturm all of a sudden turns into the only 2-tap hand cannon in the game. And now here we are.
Yeah. And this was before Not Forgotten happened. And Not Forgotten happened, and they were like, this is too good. We're nerfing this down. And
that's the thing that makes no sense with Bungie. What? Because the thing is Not Forgotten in the grand scheme of things was not that long ago. It has been a couple years, don't get me wrong, but you still see it in use today. So if Not Forgotten is still going to be allowed, and Not Forgotten is now a 3-tap headshot, and you nerfed it because the TTK was too big, then why are we having 2-tap hand cannons such a big problem? And these hand cannons have way more fucking range than Not Forgotten ever did.
Yeah, as 140, what were they, 150s at the time? And then they got moved to, they were originally...
lightweights were 150s, yes.
Yeah, they were originally 150s, and then as part of the nerf, they were moved to 140s. And then their Magnificent Howl perk was modified so that it...
You're forgetting the first nerf.
What was the first nerf?
They went from 180 to 150.
Oh, I didn't even remember that they were 180s to begin with.
They were, yeah. So Not Forgotten pre-nerf, before anything else, had a Mag Howl that did 132 damage, and it was a 180 RPM.
And the problem with it, the thing that they changed about Magnificent Howl, was that you could carry it between encounters because continued headshots would...
you could still do that.
Yeah.
In Bungie's defense, that was not why they argued the perk was broken. Why they argued the perk was broken was because the damage buff for Magnificent Howl was enough for a 2-tap headshot, and then as long as you hit the target.
Yeah.
As long as you shoot your target that you're shooting at, whether it's a body or a head, it would kill. And Bungie considered that too fast of a TTK. So then they changed it to where it was only headshot.
You could go from one encounter with a Guardian and then immediately just shoot his friend. And
you
just
could still
for
do
free.
that. You could still do that with... Let me phrase that. You could still do that with that version of Not Forgotten.
Yeah.
The difference being... It was the only hand cannon at the time that could 2-tap reliably, and it was the only 180 that could 3-tap body shot under circumstances.
It's been a while since obviously I've read the patch notes and the changes, but from what I remember reading with the change, it was that because Magnificent Howl is 2 headshots, and then your third, and then a buff.
Your next shot. Yeah, so you have a buff for either. It's not just your next shot.
It's a timer. It's a timer.
It's
your next.
It's a 2-second timer.
But if you miss a shot, it resets entirely. I'm pretty sure that if you outright miss, the buff goes away.
No, I think the thing is it's 2 seconds, right?
Right.
The reason why Mag Howl ends before the 2 seconds is because a kill kills it.
Does it?
Yes.
You can tell I've never used a gun.
Yeah, I farmed it out the first season it came out. Okay, I love that shit. But
the only time I ever used it was when I was doing recovery work in 2019.
The thing why Mag Howl... Oh god, don't remind me. The thing why Mag Howl was so broken, KOB, was because, say I was shooting at you, and then you had a teammate next to you, and you were half health. I could tap you in the head twice with Not Forgotten and kill you, and then if I shot your friend in the head, I could 2-tap headshot him with Mag Howl.
Right.
But that was because Mag Howl did 131 damage to the head, and 80 damage to the body. So the original issue was as long as I hit your friend in the face and then hit him anywhere again with Mag Howl, I will 2-tap him.
The Magnificent Howl perk now reads, rapidly landing 2 precision shots increases the next shot's damage and range for a short duration.
For the short duration, yeah. So what Bungie did was originally we had 180s, and then we had the unnerfed Mag Howl, which was a more than double damage increase.
Yeah.
And now we have... Then we went from they nerfed Mag Howl to only do it on headshots.
Yes.
Then they nerfed him to 150s, even though they still do the damage of 180s. That's the trick. Then they changed them to 140s, and now it's where it is now. Not Forgotten now, honest to God, Bungie could bring it back and it wouldn't be broken. In all seriousness, it would contest.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something we talked about in that first PvP episode, was what is considered too fast of a TTK, because Bungie took out the Claymore and the Broadsword.
Yeah, here's the original perk description. Rapidly landing 2 shots grants a short period of bonus damage until your next kill or miss.
Mm-hmm.
So it did originally
yeah, you're
kill
right.
on miss. And it
you're
lost that functionality later, it looks like.
Yeah, because it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Looking at Not Forgotten stats, like real shit, think about this. You had a 180 hand cannon with 74 range, 61 stability, and 80 aim assist. And perfectly vertical recoil.
Mm-hmm.
With 2-tap capabilities.
And then now, a change, let's see, the modification, the initial edition date, I'm looking at patch history here, it was 8/27/2018. The modified was 8/31/2018. It was around in the original state for 3 days before it was changed to rapidly landing 2 precision shots grants a short period of bonus damage until your next kill or miss.
Oh man, it was so beautiful for that period of time.
Yeah, and then that change lasted for a year almost.
So, but anyway, going back to going back to current meta, because we're going back in time, which isn't a bad thing. It's good to look back at what we've had in Destiny, but going back to where we are now, I wish Bungie would elaborate more from their PvP team. What is considered too fast of a TTK?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, for specials, this is different.
Right.
I expect a special weapon to one-shot a Guardian under whatever circumstance requires it. So, for example, if I hit all bolts of my fusion rifle, I should kill that Guardian. If I hit all pellets on my shotgun, I should kill that Guardian if I'm within optimal range. Sniper rifles are a whole nother beast. We'll tackle in a little bit. But if I direct impact someone with a grenade launcher, I should kill them. I totally agree with that philosophy.
To be fair...
The problem is always...
To be fair, there are fusion rifles out there that will not kill if you hit all the bolts. There are a few. Not many. Jotun is not one of them. Moving on.
Jotun does not count.
Grenade launchers also have the problem of, without spike grenades, most of them won't one-shot on a direct body.
Bungie does need to tune that. If Fighting Lion could one-shot DI, oh my god.
Yeah.
Bungie, make it happen. But anyway, let's just talk about we've talked about 120s. Obviously, we kind of went on a rant, but I wish Bungie would be more open about what counts as too extreme of a TTK.
Because before, with Redrix and Desperado, that was too fast. And with
Mag Howl unnerfed, that was too fast.
Yeah, that was too fast.
But
now 120s
we're seeing...
are as fast or faster, and the time seems to be creeping down.
Which, if that's what Bungie wants, tell us that.
Yeah.
But also, then when you get backlash from all these other players that were going, well, then why were these taken out? You know, honest to God, what I feel Bungie should do, I really wish they would at this point, they need to pull a Taken King and wipe their slate clean. But not from where we are now.
Yeah.
They need to pull a Taken King from Opulence backwards.
Yeah.
First of all, that Legacy gear tab, the PvP weapons section should be completely fucking deleted. How many of those weapons cause problems? Mountaintop, Revoker, Randy's was pretty balanced. I'll give him props for that. Redrix.
The issue on all of these problem weapons was an issue they addressed not long after Recluse. Was that they were
Recluse. Thank you for reminding me of that one, Recluse.
They were making guns that were exotic tier in quality in a legendary item, and they wanted to back that down.
They said the same thing when Fatebringer came out.
Yeah, and then they made it an exotic.
Which, if that's what they would do, honest to God, if all the old weapons came back for PvP, like if Mountaintop, first of all, no, don't let that come back, please. But if every other PvP weapon came back as an exotic, Luna's Not Forgotten, Komodo don't make an exotic because it's not powerful enough.
No, that was after they switched from Pinnacle to Ritual.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. All opulence, pre-opulence PvP weapons, excluding Mountaintop, if they all came back as exotics, I'd have no issue with that.
The pre-opulence weapons were referred to as Pinnacle weapons in the time, and the post ones became Ritual. Your Komodo, your Python, your Buzzard.
Oxygen.
Was Oxygen?
If Bungie's
Oxygen a Ritual? Yeah, Oxygen was a Ritual. It was like the first one.
Oxygen was a Ritual. Yeah.
And
if Bungie's gonna pull that shit, though, then they have to bring back the other ones, and we need to see some. I want to see better Ritual weapons. Now, to Bungie's credit. First of all, fuck you for making Adored, because I know why you did it, but I props to you. I mean, sorry, Adored. Props to you for fan service. I'll give you that. But starting with the first actual new one, Salvage or Salvo.
Great weapon.
Salvo is great.
Yeah.
Please. It is not overpowered in PvP. It does well in PvP if you know how to use grenade launchers. It does good with DIs. Chain reaction sets up your next Guardian for a non-direct impact kill. That is a good ritual weapon. It's fantastic in PvE, and it's balanced in PvP.
Yeah.
But no, Bungie goes, let's nerf Breakneck.
Yeah.
Like
Breakneck, probably the worst of all of the pinnacle weapons at the time. Not bad, but just not anything compared.
In that same season, for context, Loaded Question and Mountaintop came out.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And then Breakneck.
Yeah.
Which Breakneck wasn't bad.
No, it was just...
It's not Mountaintop level.
Yeah. And it was the same slot as Mountaintop.
Like, for example, I like Bungie's stance on a lot of their ritual weapons. I liked Randy's because it rewarded you being able to use an archetype that was underused, and it made people use rapid fires more. Mm-hmm. It's why I liked... it's why I love Point of the Stag. I love that bow. It is... first of all, please more Iron Banner ritual weapons. Especially if we're going to get one ritual weapon for all 3 of our base playlists, make an Iron Banner one. Please. And I'm not saying one every season. Do it like you get 2 seasons to get it. And then you can make another one. And then you can throw the old one into the Legacy vendor.
Yeah.
Make it even cost Iron Banner tokens.
I mean...
because those stay between resets.
Yeah, they do.
So make it stay... Make it where you have to get Iron Banner tokens. And grind up for it.
Yeah, it's, See, if the old pinnacle weapons came back as exotics, that would be... Here's the thing I would have a problem with. Then the big thing that was always the big thing that was always a problem with these 2 specific weapons. Recluse existed the same season Teraba existed. They both came out at about the same time, and Recluse was just a better version of Teraba in every way. So if they bring back Recluse, they have to address the Teraba problem they are afraid of addressing.
Yeah, I know. We talked about that in the last episode. We got to Teraba and we shouted it basically.
Yeah.
But I want to real quick, and then we can go back. We're supposed to be talking about PvP, but this is tied to it. But we'll go back and we'll talk about what we think each archetype needs, and then we'll talk about Stasis. But real quick, I want to just talk about all the weapons Bungie did after Pinnacle, so all the rituals. They made good weapons. Oxygen wasn't overpowered, but it was fun. It was good. It was good for ag control. Honest to God, if they made it to where Oxygen now had chain reaction on top of Mega Neura, it'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Python, that shotgun was fucking amazing, and you can't tell me otherwise. Overflow 1-2 punch on an aggressive frame was so good.
It was a good shotgun.
I just wish it would have had disruption. I just wish it would have had disruption break.
Yeah.
Exit strategy, surrounded spec and everything else.
As SMGs go, exit strategy was decent.
Yeah,
for its time.
Threat detector surrounded. That was a great combo. A fucking underdog swashbuckler. That was still.
And then Ikelos SMG came back with Warmind cells, and then everybody forgot exit strategy even existed.
Yeah, even Buzzard wasn't terrible. I mean, 4th time swash on a sidearm
with the option of going Osmosis.
Yeah, with the option of being able to break on a primary. I'm sure. I mean, Osmosis isn't an amazing perk, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
And then we look at the PvP side. Randy's throwing knife. Komodo. And yeah, Komodo wasn't the most amazing thing, but no distractions box breathing on a linear fusion is a really good role for both PvP and PvE. Mm-hmm. I used to use Komodo on the Cyclopses for Sanctified Mind for Garden.
Yeah.
Until I had, Relay Defender and everything else. Like I said earlier, Point of the Stag, that bow's fucking amazing.
Yeah, Point of the Stag is good. It's actually still completely viable in GMs right now.
I used it for my Grandmaster. Yeah. And then, I wish some weapons would come back, but they're not going to. But that's not the point.
Right.
Ritual weapons are getting better and better and better, and props to Bungie for doing that. And exotics are getting better and better and better. Duality, DMT, Hawkmoon, these are good weapons.
Duality just needs to figure out what it wants to be first.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, it took me 18 years, so, I mean, I'll give it some time.
Oh, well,
But that's, anyway, the thing is, when we're talking about, we're talking about DMT and everything else, right? These weapons are new, so I don't give Bungie a whole bunch of shit for them, because they're new. But, those will balance in time. because Bungie really likes to make sure their exotics are balanced. But Feltwinter's has been here since Season 10. This is now Season 13.
Mm-hmm. And we're a little over halfway in.
They haven't touched it once.
Yeah.
This is the problem.
It's on their table. They have said it. They have said that they want to do something about Felwinters and Warmind cells. We flat out told Bungie. We flat out told Bungie too. Everyone was screaming it from the rooftops. If you allow Feltwinters to be purchased from that kiosk when it's the last season it can be used before you sunset it, you're gonna make PvP hell. And did Bungie do anything? No. No. But in their state of the game, they addressed that they want to look at outliers like Felwinters and Warmind cells. Like Felwinters, yeah. Which props to them. Yeah. I can't knock them on that. But anyway, getting off of the Feltwinters soapbox, and the 120 soapbox, real quick. Let's talk about other things. Not a lot. Yeah, I know. There's not a lot of debate here that we're gonna go through. We've both talked about this before. Obviously, we recorded. We're just gonna talk about how we feel each archetype of weapon is doing in PvP currently, and what are some of the weapons that stand out in that archetype. So I'll go ahead. I will say this right now. I'll probably cover a decent chunk of this. Again, this is my area, but you have plenty to jump in on too. Absolutely. But, like our first set that we talked about here was actually pulse rifles and how high impacts seem to be the only viable ones, and I can actually agree with that. Because my cold denial that I have, it fucking cold denial is still fucking shop. Great. Zen Moment Head Seeker. Oh my goodness. Are you? And that was the fucking season pass roll. Yeah. I get that roll really consistently when I get cold denials too. I know. Are you gonna be ready for a outlaw desperado adept range messenger? Oh, just thinking about that makes me hurt on the inside in ways I don't appreciate. Are you going to be ready for an adept reload outlaw desperado? I think you'll hit the reload cap at some point. One of those things is going to make you hit cap. You could take high cal rounds instead of a mag perk and then put backup mag on that. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have, or how about adept handling? On top of being able to have a quick draw backup in your other slot. Mm-hmm. Quick draw Feltwinters. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so it's not that other. Now I will give credit where credit's due. Time War Spire is actually doing decent. It's not amazing. And Time Warden is a adaptive? Rapid fire. Oh, it's a rapid fire. Okay. It's a rapid fire. Now I will say one of the reasons why it can do that is because of Iron Reach. Yeah. Because it can buff its range at the cost of, what is it, handling? Stability. Which is not bad to begin with on a pulse rifle. Stability is not... It's a rapid fire. It's got really good recoil direction and everything else, Yeah. And pulse rifles are pretty good on their stability because you don't want your pulse to fly everywhere like a shotgun spray. You want the 3, 4, however many it actually has, depending on the pulse rifle. Looking at you, Vigilance Wing, for being that weird outlier. Yeah, looking at this gun real quick, Iron Reach is a plus 20 to range with a minus 40 to stability, but you can get under pressure in the first slot. Yeah. So if you get under pressure in that perk, you're fine. Or moving target, Yeah. So there's plenty of perks there. Plus, not to mention, you can get quick draw rampage on that fucking thing. Owie. So, but generally speaking, high impacts are the only viable ones because they can they roll well. Yeah, you don't see anyone pulling out. I mean, Stars and Shadow also gets used a decent amount, but that's because you can get so many random rolls of it. Yeah. But you don't see anyone pulling out, a Nightshade or a Shattering Bone. Shattering Bone actually used to be really good, and it's still decent. It still is decent, but. The high impacts being what they are, and the fact that high caliber rounds exists, you can just out-flinch other pulse rifles with a high impact with high caliber rounds. When was the last time, in real shit, looking at collections real quick, when was the last time you saw someone bring a Geon 7 into PvP? Last season, actually. Or a Last Perdition. Last season, actually. Or a Hailing Confusion. I haven't seen anybody use Hailing Confusion. I heard during Beyond Light, the Season of the Hunt, I did hear that people were trying to claim that Hailing Confusion was the Halo battle rifle of Destiny, and I'm like,
No.
No.
Now, to be fair, the third Axiom, which is an adaptive frame in the energy slot that drops from strikes, can have a decent PvP role on it, but it's one of our seasonal, what are they called? Ritual, whatever the fuck they're called, that Bungie's calling them. One of the weapons that drops from activities when you play them.
They're playlist.
So it's got 10 perks in
playlist pool.
Thank you. Playlist pool. It's got 10 perks in both fucking slots.
The same problem exists with Tertiary System, the fusion rifle from Gambit.
Like, it has roles that could be good, but the chances of you getting that perk is so fucking hard.
Yeah. And that's why they recently increased the drop rates for those things in...
So people can start using them.
So that they can start using them, so they can start getting them to even get rolls.
Yeah. So, I'd like to see some more pulse rifle viability. Now, autos. They're strange... Let us talk about this before anyone starts shouting in the comments. They're strangely consistent, but they're below average. They're not... Their TTK is not... Even if you and a 120 are fighting and they land the first shot, you will die. But if you start putting your bullets in and you hit headshots on a target before they can get their first shot off, you win.
Oh, yeah.
And autos are consistent. At 600 RPM, autos are doing 22 damage to the head right now, which is pretty good. It's not the issue we had last season where they would just burn and melt through health. They're actually really, really solid. They're nice to use.
600s were scary last season. And when they gave us Forward Path out of Iron Banner, it was like, uh-oh.
And Gnawing Hunger.
And Gnawing Hunger. Gnawing Hunger still can wreck shop if you let it, but that's the thing.
So can Summoner.
If you let it.
Yeah. There's some scary-ass Summoner Adepts that are rolling around out there that are terrifying.
Mm-hmm. I bet.
Like, Summoner Adept with, like, fucking Adept's range or Adept stability and Zen Moment Rangefinder is fucking terrifying. Yeah.
But they are... All the auto rifles are very steady workhorse guns. If you're running that as your primary, you'll be served well as long as you start your engagements. As long as you're the one starting.
You gotta get about 3 bullets into the target before they hit their first 120 shot on you.
Which is pretty consistent for an auto.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. But autos are in a really good spot right now. I don't want them to change.
I think the only autos that suffer right now are 450s. Because they don't really... Yeah. They're kind of that middle ground. The 360s are the high impact frames, and they have
suffering
that
the same issue. They're suffering the same issue that 140s were suffering when 150s existed in the hand cannon area.
Yeah.
Was that 600s are really good, and high impacts are good for what they're good for.
Yeah.
But 450s are these awkward archetype in between. Honestly, what they should do is they should make those lightweight.
Yeah.
If they make every 450 in the game lightweight and still have the recoil of precision, you'll see use out of them. Hand cannons outside of 120 hand cannons. 140s can contest 120s. The issue is you have to fire at max fire rate and hit 3 headshots. Now, if you're someone who plays a lot of PvP, I can do it decently consistently. Where I just go pop, 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 and I kill someone with a palindrome before they can kill me with a bottom dollar.
Yeah, because you get your shots off first.
You get your shots off first, exactly. But that takes practice.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean 140s are bad. Ace is still fucking fantastic.
Ace is probably like I think we talked about this in the Exotic Catalyst. It's just powerful. It has been the one weapon that has stayed consistently good no matter what they've done to it, just because it's...
They kept changing it for like 5 fucking seasons.
Yeah. And it still maintained goodness.
Yeah, it's still good. It's still got use in all those seasons, and it still gets used today.
The only 150 out there now is Sunshot, though, and apparently that's scary these days.
It hurts. Bad.
Yeah.
Palindrome. Pallies are great.
Yeah.
Hawk Moons are good still, obviously. Ace is still good. Fuck, what other 140 was I thinking of? Even some of the 140s that have been in the game for a while now, like Ancient Gospel, Nation of Beasts, and shit like that, they're still good in PvP.
Yeah. Do we have 180s still, or did 180s get sped up?
No, we do still have 180s. That's the thing. No one uses them.
Yeah.
The newest 180 that you have seen would be Nature of the Beast coming back, and Posterity from DSC.
Yeah, I do feel like I use Posterity on my Titan a lot, not for the sake of like PvP or anything. I just use it because I like the way it feels alongside the heritage that I'm rolling him with. And I do feel that 180 is a little, even in PvE, is a little on the underpowered side. Like, it could use some help. But
honestly, if Bungie made a perk exclusive to 180s that was one for all, but it was 3 shots on one person, it would help them a lot. So
that the 4th shot or continued shots dealt a little bit more damage. Not so much that it's weird. And then the perk needs to end on kill.
Yeah. 180s need ramp up perks is the problem.
Yeah.
Which is good. I don't want 180s to do 3-tap headshots.
Oh god,
that makes them compete with 140s. God fuck no.
Oh god.
But a kill clip 180 does do a 3-tap headshot.
That's fine, but that requires you get that kill.
Exactly. They need ramp up perks, which is not bad, but it can go from there.
Yeah. Scout rifles.
Scouts.
My actual favorite weapon class, despite not always going back to it.
You can take it.
In PvP, they've always been good. They outrange most things and don't suffer hardly any fall off at PvP consistent ranges. Once you get outside of that range, nothing but a sniper rifle is going to be very good. But the recent prevalence of 120s and DMT, the current exotic scout rifle, they make the rest of the scout rifle archetypes kind of feel like they're underperforming, even though they haven't changed in who knows how long. I don't think there have been many major that aren't like 10%
a few
here.
touches to them.
Yeah, there haven't been major changes to them, and they're consistent because they outrange auto rifles, SMGs, and shotguns and all that, and just invalidate them if you can engage at the optimal ranges. And even hand cannons struggle to meet scout rifles sometimes. But with 120s, all the 120s have the range to meet scout rifles, and the only thing that makes DMT competitive against those is it's a 120 power scout rifle that fires at a 150 rate when you fire from the hip with the catalyst. I think it's 150. It's something like that. So you can literally just outspeed the hand cannons if you can pull your trigger fast enough and are good at your hip fires.
Exactly. And the fact that you can still hit like full damage headshots from hip fire, you can stack cranial spike, you can do a shit ton, and everything else is nuts.
Yeah.
So, what was I gonna say? They're pretty good. They're in a decent spot. I would like to see maybe some changes to high impacts. To allow them to contest with DMT.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see all precisions turn into lightweights, personally. Because I feel like they suffer from the same issue where they're too similar in archetype, just like 140s and 150s.
Yeah.
I'd like to see all those pushed over to the 200 RPM. Even if it's like a 200 RPM with a precision frame and a lightweight frame, I'd like to see all those get bumped over the 200 RPM slot. And that would help them a lot. As far as rapid fires are still good. They never stopped being good. It's just that Randy's was really good because it had kill clip, and we haven't had a kill clip rapid fire since then.
Yeah.
We need we want more, obviously, but
Trusty actually has been doing me nicely.
Trusty's great.
A couple of times that I do take it into PvP as like my backup. Like I'm using something else in the kinetic slot, and I want to still use a non-special ammo range something in the energy slot. I use my Trusty with Reconstruction. You can just fire for fucking ever.
Yeah, Trusty is great.
SMIGs, SMGs.
What do you think about SMGs?
SMGs will melt the fuck out of you if you're close to somebody, but you run the risk of having that person just have a shotgun and Fellwintering you. Oh god, please help. But
750s aren't bad.
No, the really high fire rate ones are pretty good.
Like even what are they called? Like aggressive frames are doing really well right now, especially with Extraordinary Rendition.
Yeah,
it's doing pretty solid.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Terabot's even still good in PvP.
Yeah, I mean it's just because SMGs encounter at the shotgun range and can put a lot of bullets in a single target.
Yeah.
And the faster the fire rate, the faster they're going to kill. But they kind of have that same problem with auto rifles where you need to be the one to engage. You can't be caught being the one to need to engage while somebody else is starting the engagement. You can't be caught with your pants down with an SMG.
Exactly. But when you get them to pop off, I mean, 600s aren't that good anymore in PvP, which is fine. 900s are okay. I will say the Multimach does do well.
Yeah, 900s are fine. You just got to be able to control that like massive wiggle that they have.
Yeah, it's not that they have recoil. We're not saying that. The crosshair just does this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it looks like a goddamn fishtail.
Yeah.
But I mean, I give props to Multimach, and I think the reason why Multimach is so fun to use is because it actually has perfectly vertical recoil.
Yeah.
That might be why it's it's just nice to use.
That would probably do it. Also.
But I don't know.
Sidearms.
So let's knock the exotics out of the way first. Traveler's Chosen and Devil's Ruin are great. They fucking hurt, actually. But talking about non-exotics, because I don't like to talk about exotics when we talk about archetypes as a whole, because exotics are meant to be outliers.
Yeah.
Precision frames are still good. 300 RPMs never stop being good. It's the same issue with SMGs, though. You have to get within that effective range, and that effective range is Feltwinter's range right now. So dealing with that range is a pain in the ass right now.
I remember Last Hope or whatever it was, the like 3-shot Amalon one back in the day.
Back in the day when Amalons and 3-round bursts were like fucking incredible. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah. But the new 2-shot burst brass attacks one actually is kind of surprising at what it can end up doing. But at the same time, you got to land your headshots and you got to get the right perks on it.
For context, the reason why KOB is saying this is that brass attacks, if you hit so one trigger pull equaling 2 bullets, does 90 damage if you hit both of them as a headshot.
So 45 per bullet.
45 per bullet, and that is the exact same damage as a 120.
So,
which is
brass attacks can technically 3-tap headshot.
And technically, it is better than a 120, or it can beat a 120, because it has almost double the fire rate. But it has a 1/10 of the range.
Yeah, and the doubled fire rate is perhaps because it shoots 2 bullets. I've always been weird on how the fire rate for normally non-burst fire things, when they get burst fire, how the fire rate affects.
That's always been my question: is how does it fire 2 bullets per shot, but it ends on a 5?
Does it? I never paid that much attention.
325.
Oh, that would the fire rate for that would probably then mean that somewhere along the way, like in whatever time calculation they're using, it only gets one of the 2 bursts out before that time cut off. Even though technically both would have left the chamber at that point, and you should count it with that.
Precisions are still good. We actually just got a new adaptive frame. Sorry, adaptives is what I'm trying to say. We just got a new adaptive frame. And the keening is actually pretty fucking solid. Yeah. You can get some really, really nice perks on it. It reminds me a lot of Drang.
That is the PvP PvP playlist drop alongside Frozen Orbit, the sniper rifle.
Yeah. It is super like crazy similar rolls. I know for a fact Rapid Hit 1 for all is a roll, which is crazy for a sidearm.
Yeah. That's good. That sounds really good.
Real quick, just hang on. I have light.dg open. Let me look real quick because I'm curious, like, just real quick, like, let's see. So on this first slot, what would I consider the best perk? It's got Rapid Hit, it's got Slide Shot, it's got, I'd say probably, it's got Killing Wind.
Yeah, Killing Wind is a nice perk.
I'll go ahead and say Rapid Hit for my first one, but in this second slot, this is a sidearm that has 1 for all, multi-kill clip, It's got Wellspring, it's got High Impact Reserves, it's got fucking Snapshot, it's got Thresh. This thing has some power to it.
I have a question in relation to Killing Wind, actually. I know it increases mobility, and it gives you an effective +10 on that mobility. I think it gives +10 to all the stats that it lists in the thing.
I think that is too, yeah. I think it's a +30 total.
Does the additional mobility... would it count if you were already at 100? In which case, killing that part of the perk is it. It does give you an additional effect being over 100.
The reason why I say yes, I'm not positive, but I'm going to say yes because of this.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why hunters run 100 mobility with Dragon Shadow is not just so they can use Dragon Shadow as much as possible. The mobility does stack on top of it.
Okay.
So if that is the case, then I'm assuming this is too, because it's not a buff applied to the stats on your bar, it is an actual buff applied to the player.
Yeah, this might be one that we can very easily go test, because I have plenty of weapons that have Killing Wind, and you and I both very commonly run hunters that have very high mobility. We just got to get to the same mobility tier, and one of us kill something with Killing Wind and walk next to the other one.
We both need to get to 10. Yeah, we just need to get to 10.
Yeah.
But... sidearms are 360s, which are lightweights, so this would be like the 7 Seraph SI.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one I think that I can even fucking think of.
Yeah.
They're alright, but eh. And we don't have any 3-round burst, do we?
No, I think...
Oh, no! High Albedo. We have the one from,
is High Albedo triple?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's good, not PvP good. I would argue that. I would say a 2-round would be better, because you're getting more damage off faster.
Yeah.
But
our
anyway,
final non-special ammo is bows.
So bows have never gotten bad or good per se. Obviously, the exotic ones are hard to talk about.
Le Monarch and Trinity Ghoul.
Le Monarch, Trinity Ghoul, Tinkus,
and
Wishender.
Leviathan's Breath, technically a bow.
The bike chain bow.
Yeah.
But they're not bad. For example, Point of the Stag is one of the best bows in PvP. Because Vorpal Weapon, Archer's Tempo, it does great.
Yeah. Can shut down a super if you can catch it off guard.
Yeah, totally. Monarch can do 1-tap headshots with any damage buff.
Yeah.
So they're not bad at all. Don't think that bows are bad.
It's just the gimmick of bows kind of
2 headshots. Yeah. Honest to God, I think we've talked about this, but if Wishender got kicked over to the special slot and you started off with like 4 or 5 arrows and it did 1-tap headshots, that'd be kind of cool.
You turn it into the sniper bow that it kind of is.
It kind of is what it wants to be.
Yeah.
Literally just kick up the damage enough to where it does enough damage to one-shot a Guardian and keep the draw and kick up the draw time by like a proportionate amount.
Actually, I think Wishender is our only technically quote-unquote longbow, which would be the equivalent for a sniper rifle bow type. So, because everything else I think is a short bow. Technically, they call it combat bow, but it's, if you look at it compared to what it is, most of them are short bow style. I think Arsenic Bite is the only one.
It's fucking huge in comparison to the players. So yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I think Arsenic Bite was the only one that ever really seemed like anything other than a short bow. And then Leviathan is a compound.
I mean, you have Tikus now, which is a lightweight.
Yeah, but it also is still a short bow. I'm saying that longbow. If they introduced longbow style weapons in the special category, they could make them sniper bows, and get away with one shot headshots. They could definitely
kick Wishender over too. Yeah, totally. I agree. Moving over to special ammo weapons real quick. Shotguns. We talked about this a lot when we were on the Feltwinter soapbox, but Feltwinter's feels like it's the only shotgun being used. I mean, there are other shotguns out there. 7th Seraph CQC still gets used. That's because of Quick Draw Snapshot.
Yeah.
And Retold Tail might pop up here soon because Retold Tail can have 95 range with Quick Draw Snapshot as a precision frame.
And it's a precision that isn't a slug.
Yeah, it's a precision buckshot. So we'll have to wait and see how that turns out because that was a god roll back in the days of DRB. So we'll see how that goes.
And that also only just came back this season, so it hasn't had a lot of time to make it into the PvP crowd as a whole.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people probably just thought, well, I'm not going to go back and get that because I already have one, so why would I do that?
Grenade launchers never stop being good.
Yeah.
Hot take. They never stop being good.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get any of them
with
a spike nades, they're a one shot. And even if you don't, if you get concussion or blinding grenades, they're a pretty nasty tool.
Win. So, fusions are in a decent spot after the buff Bungie's done. I give them props. High impacts feel like a hard-hitting fusion. Adaptives feel like a decent fusion. Rapid fires still feel like shit. But I don't blame that on Bungie.
And now the tricky of the special ammo, which actually there are only 5 special ammo archetypes. There's the shotguns, there's the grenade launchers, the fusion rifles,
grenade launchers,
and then our sniper rifles.
Sniper rifles. So we've talked about this a lot, and people have talked to me about this a lot. They're like, how would you balance sniper rifles? And I said,
the problem is if you take away a sniper's ability to one-shot headshot, you've essentially just made it a scout rifle. So
the thing is with Bungie, I will say, the thing is about Bungie's sniper rifles, and at least in this game, name one other FPS game where you can jump up into the air ADS and have like an 85% chance of landing your shot on your target. Bungie could fix that with sniper rifles.
Halo, but you might have been able to do it in. But
yeah, Bungie could fix that with sniper rifles, like the in-air accuracy and everything else. But that's not gonna fix the jiggle peeking and the slide shotting and everything else. They're too fucking balanced. They're not balanced. Sorry, they're too fucking powerful to be balanced in this game. Is the problem.
If you take away what makes them identifiable as a weapon, the ability to shoot you in the head and kill you in one bullet, then you run into the issue of, well, this is just a strong scout rifle. And if you make them any stronger or shorten their range, you have a second problem, where if you just shorten their range, then you're having a more accurate shotgun, which presents us a problem with, like, Felwinter.
You have a better slug shotgun.
Yeah, and if you end up increasing their power to where they're able to one-shot body, then you need to make
Holy fuck, don't even say that.
Then you need to make them more inaccurate, and then they just turn into what would be a shitty grenade launcher. Because at least grenade launchers have a predictable arc, and they will almost always go where you're pointing. They don't have much of an accuracy spread as they fly.
Plus, the inaccuracy thing doesn't make sense for a sniper rifle.
No,
it's
exactly.
a precision weapon.
Exactly. That's the thing that always got me, like, in games in general, was sniper rifles, was because what we call firing from the hip isn't actually down by the hip.
You mean wall of schmooty?
Yeah, you're technically up at the shoulder at all times. It's just whether or not you're actually looking in the scope or not, and you can actually see that in Destiny, where they just kind of move their head a little bit and the gun comes up just a little bit when they go to scope in.
Destiny is better because I can ADS in Destiny and have my crosshair in the right place and not have to go.
Yeah.
You know.
and
then at the very end, just.
I understand the need for balance, but it's unrealistic for the way that we hold guns in what we call hip fire.
Hang on, pause. Who would have thought a game with zombie space wizards has the most realistic sniper rifles?
Right. It's a little weird to me that sniper and Halo doesn't do this, which is interesting.
Even more shocking.
Yeah. That when you fire from what we call from the hip in these games with sniper rifles, you just either don't have a crosshair at all, and your cone to hit is like 70 degrees in front of you. You will never hit anything unless you're sticking the barrel in them. Or you just don't have a crosshair at all. Like, you just don't have one. Or it's the sides of the fucking screen. There we go. That's the thought I was trying to finish a moment ago. And it's really funny when you think about how what we call hip firing is actually just the stock shoved in.
It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Snipers are dumb.
Snipers are really hard to balance if it's a if you take away the one-shot headshot, you take away the identity of the gun. If you do anything else to it, you have it run into the problem of taking over other spots. Maybe
what it is, real shit, we might see more and more sniper rifles start going this way. Maybe what this is that Bungie has actually set up sniper rifles to what they're supposed to be, which is if you are a talented marksman / markswoman / marksperson, if you are a good shot, let me rephrase that you get rewarded for it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you're a good shot, you get rewarded for it. But the reward is so fucking powerful.
Yeah.
You can kill an entire team in one magazine of a sniper rifle in Trials.
Yeah.
You can, in theory, kill an entire team in one magazine of a shotgun in Trials. But good fucking luck with Stasis.
I mean, you're right. The thing that makes snipers balanced is player skill. Because of the way the reticle is when you're scoped in, if you're not moving, if you're not in the air, where that reticle is where that bullet is going. It just will not hit anywhere else. Unless something causes your reticle to move, like hit flinch, you moving, or you jumping. Mm-hmm. It just won't move.
So maybe what this is, honest to God, thinking about it, maybe we're looking at it the wrong way. Maybe sniper rifles are balanced because they're accurate. Like, not just accurate like the bullet is, but they're accurate to the idea of a sniper rifle, which is good precision and good aim rewards you.
Yeah, and if you're even just a little bit off, and this, you'll notice this feel sometimes when you go to certain, like, other games that have sniper rifles, where they feel too accurate. Like, Warframe has this problem with their sniper rifles. Oh, you can fire Warframe sniper rifles from the hip, and they'll still go pretty much where your reticle is. The problem is that reticle is a tiny dot, and it will hit that tiny dot, and sometimes that tiny dot just lies to you on where it's actually aiming because of the third person nature of the
it just
shooter.
Lies.
It just lies.
That dot don't fucking trust you. But
I don't
know. Maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Maybe this is the way that sniper rifles are going.
Maybe. Like I don't mind. I don't personally mind.
Maybe the idea of
like
CS:GO
and get you.
No, neither do I. Like maybe the idea of like CS:GO and everything else, where if I'm sitting there and I'm moving, all of a sudden my bullet can go ping. Like that doesn't make sense, you know?
Yeah. Like I don't.
Yes, I will say for long distance shots, snipers do like in the real world, snipers do usually stand still to take long distance shots and things like that. And that's for steadying their aim and everything else. But snipers also know how to move. And move from position to position.
Right.
And they know how to take shots on the fly.
The issue I see with sniper rifles is the movement around it, rather than the weapon.
I will say, I have one idea that Bungie could do. And that is make it to where sniper rifles are the only special that spawns with one round. But
I feel like the bigger problem around sniper rifles is the movement that surrounds them, or the locking down thereof. Because if you come around a corner, somebody's already got you on the sight line, and they already have their reticle where heads go. You just die, and you have no idea what happened until the kill feed points you in the direction of sniper rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you know where they're at, the movement ability in Destiny is such a great degree that they're not going to be there by the time you get there to like counter snipe.
Yeah.
And even if you both peek and both see each other with sniper rifles, if they wiggle back into cover and back out while you take your shot you think you're going to hit, you're
jiggle
just gonna miss.
peeking.
Yep.
Gotta love it.
Yep. And that's not even talking about like 3 peeking and shit. Which they're doing away with soon.
Which TM. I will say though, I logged into Destiny today, and my friend and I, we play a lot of comp and a lot of trials. I had 3 things that said thank you for helping us ban a cheater, and he had 2. Now I don't know if obviously that was the same people. It could be that we both reported someone and it counted for you know what I mean. But optimally, that would mean that we help ban 5 people.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. I hope we start seeing that page more often.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I kind of wish Destiny would do what Rainbow Six does, where it says in the top right corner globally, username was banned by, instead of Battle.eye, it could say like Bungie. They could even make it funny and be like, for example, I'll use I hope my username would obviously never be up there, but Leona Lilac has faced the wrath of the 7th column. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, something like that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Or they could just make it to where if you get caught cheating, you get banned from PvP activities.
Or, third alternative, if I think this takes a bit from CS:GO, if you're reported for cheating enough, you start getting put in lobbies with just other cheaters.
The Dark Souls method.
Yeah.
If you get caught cheating or if you get caught cheating, you get put into the cheater server.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, that's a very much different game.
Correct.
But I agree with the idea. Even though Dark Souls can be dumb about it sometimes, you have to be careful.
To modify it because of the nature of how Destiny works with its things, the cheater lobbies give significantly reduced loot drop because you don't want to reward the cheaters.
You have to get 7 wins to get 1 reward out of trials.
But it has to look like it's not changed. You're just getting bad RNG.
Yeah. Or they could just make it to where certain perks can't roll. So like the community roll the community-based god rolls and what they know are the good rolls, they just make it to where it's impossible for them to drop from that.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. But those are all the specials.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about heavies real quick. And this is probably going to be a really fast thing, which is, what the fuck would you do?
Yeah. Well,
yes, caster frames are a little bit coming back into the limelight because of Solas, but like, Black Talon's infinitely better. So it's heavy. It's a bullshit round. If you ask anyone that plays comp or anyone that plays trials, heavy round's always the throwaway. In comp, you always try to end the round, or you always try to control heavy. It's a bullshit thing. I'm not gonna talk about it.
Yeah, the balancing factor is the fact that the ammo is limited, and the trade-off for it being highly limited is it's highly strong. There are some standouts like Wardcliff that can wipe an entire team in any game mode.
Wardcliff, Black Talon, Levy's Breath.
Yeah.
You know,
the ones
weapons like that.
The ones that Eyes of Tomorrow, in theory, can wipe a whole team.
Eyes is actually nutty because the thing is about that fucks with players. Eyes is actually quiet from a distance of 30 meters or more.
Yeah,
you can't hear it.
Yeah,
and it's delayed.
Right.
So if you see the eyes getting fired at you, besides the fact that it is incredibly aggressive tracking, the fact that it's quiet, you might get hit from eyes and have no fucking clue it was even shot.
It happens a lot. It happens a lot in Gambit. The only announcement that you get that an Eyes of Tomorrow might be coming is hey, there's an invader on the field, and that can be anything about to happen.
Wardcliff, you can hear around the entire fucking battlefield.
Yeah,
you hear it's loud, but with eyes, it's quiet from pretty decent ranges. So
the rockets fly very fast from eyes as well,
way faster than Wardcliff's.
Hunters
I even think they're faster than Truth.
Hunters have a method of breaking lock on rockets a lock of anything. They can do a dodge roll. That force just severs lock-ons, all of them. I'm questioning whether or not Bakras dodges do anymore, but I haven't really gone into any rigorous testing to say for sure.
Ideally, if you're gonna do a Bakras dodge, you would Bakras dodge behind cover or into a building to get away from it. But the other thing you could do, because Eyes of Tomorrow is not a proximity-based explosion like Truth. Truth, you're usually fucked if you try to do a Bakras dodge. But with Eyes, you can actually wait till it's about to hit you, which is hard. But then you could Bakras dodge in a C motion around it, and it would go behind you.
Which is only applicable on PC, where you have the mobility necessary to.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you could do it on a controller. You could probably do a J turn on a controller, but I don't think you could do a C turn.
Yeah, you can on controller. You can curve the tail end of it a little bit, not a lot.
You could probably so you could probably do like an M turn or a J turn, but I don't think you could do a C turn.
Yeah.
Sorry, not a U turn.
Yeah.
Not like a U turn like you turn around, but like a U turn, like drawing a U with your dodge or drawing a J with your dodge.
Yeah.
You could do a U turn or a J turn, but I don't think you could do a C turn.
No.
That's severe angle.
Eyes is actually scary because the rockets are so fast. By the time you realize that the rocket is coming,
it's too late.
It's too late to commit to your dodge because the input delay.
Not to mention that Truth and Eyes both share this. when they have locked onto you, the thing that is scary about Eyes of Tomorrow is that if Eyes of Tomorrow locks onto you and the player knows how to flick it up, just like Truth, they know how to flick it up, it becomes a fucking javelin. It's the scariest thing in the world.
And the thing with the Truth loses on is that window of flick up is very short. If you lock on and flick up, you can shoot. But if you lock on, flick up, and delay at all, you lose the lock. Eyes of Tomorrow doesn't lose that lock.
So
actually, I read on the TWAB today that Eyes of Tomorrow, the drop rate increases were not getting increased the way they should have. So some people who are having sore spot on getting Eyes of Tomorrow should see their drop rate increase significantly when the upcoming Stasis related patch comes out. The problem was that sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The problem was that you have bad luck protection in there, up to a guaranteed drop at some point. The issue was that it was only counting. It's only supposed to count your first clear for the week towards that, but it wasn't counting. It was counting individual characters separately rather than your account. So if this week you did it on your hunter, but next week you just did it on your warlock only, that is 2 1-point lockout or loot bad luck. There we go. Bad luck protection counts. 2 separate 1 counts instead of a 2 count, and they'll be fixing that. So if you've been doing a lot of raiding, like 1 here, 1 there on other characters, you should see. They said you should see your rate up to triple.
Yeah.
So eyes might be a little bit more common to see in the next few weeks.
Yeah, because for just context real quick, like what Bungie did is Bungie basically made it to where instead of having it to where it's a stacking thing, it turns it all into 1 value. So it's gonna bad luck protection. You basically now have bad luck protection.
We already had bad luck protection to begin with, but it was just not working. It was just not working the way it should have.
So, Stasis.
Our final topic that may or may
not
be
I don't want to dwell on this. I don't want to dwell on this too long, and that's for one reason. The Stasis changes to all the subclasses and everything else come out next week. So instead of talking about why I think Stasis is terrible, everything else, let's just talk about. I feel we should just talk about what we hope the change upcoming on the 23rd will do, and how it will affect PvP. Because I feel like that's going to be more fruitful to the conversation than just what we talked about before, which was, Stasis is terrible, everything. Let's just talk about what we hope. I hope... Go ahead, sorry.
The problem with Stasis as it was, as it is, at the time of recording and prior to the update, is simply that total freeze lockdowns were the problem, and there were too many of them in all the situations.
Yeah.
And that's that's the main sore spot, is there were too many easily accessible and basically free freezes.
Yeah, Destiny is a game that's about moving and jumping and everything else, and to get stopped and frozen and guaranteed... First of all, the BM that comes from getting frozen and the thing that people do sucks, but... just real quick, going over the Stasis changes real quick. The only one that I'm somewhat on the fence about is the cooldown to Shatter Dive.
Yeah, they're introducing a 4-second cooldown per Shatter Dive. Which
I personally think I think it should be 2 personally, but... Or what I would actually want is I would like for it to function like Icarus, where you get 2 and then you have a 5-second cooldown.
Right. But... And that's the same way that the Titan slide works, is you can do that slide twice, and then you get a cooldown. Yeah. I feel like... Other than that, I will say this. First of all, Bungie,
fucking smart move. Because I had talked about this and tried to figure out, how do you balance Shatter Dive? Stripping the damage reduction is the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
The best thing you've ever done.
The cooldown thing seems like a typical Bungie over-nerf to compensate for something that people are really complaining about.
Honest to God, even if they had just told us that the 4-second cooldown wasn't a thing, and it was just that there's no damage reduction on Shatter Dive, now let me say this. This is an issue with Titan Shoulder Charge, where if you kill the Titan mid-shoulder charge, the body still hits you and you die in PvP.
Physics.
This is true for all Titan shoulder... Yeah. If I shoot that hunter out of the air, and the body hits the ground and still causes the shadow dive animation, you haven't fixed anything. Bungie needs to make sure that if I kill that hunter out of the air with no damage reduction, that it's not going to fuck up anything and it's not going to still cause the shadow dive.
I think the change to the damage for the hunter melee, hunter stasis melee, is
holy fuck, thank God.
A little. I don't think it's overkill, but
I think it's perfect.
What they did was, at the start of Beyond Light, you could precision with it. Fine, whatever. But then they removed the ability to precision and increased the damage. And now they're taking away the increased damage back to, it's going back to you could precision damage, but you're not getting precision. I should note immediately right now, outside of, the damage resistance and the timer added on this, all of these changes are PvP exclusive. The damage outside of it remains the same.
I don't mind the Withering Blade change for one reason. If you throw 2 Withering Blades at a person... Now, mind you, this could be argued because the change is going to make it to where if you throw 2 Withering Blades, it doesn't freeze someone. But if you were to throw 2 Withering Blades at a target and freeze them, they would be Abso.
Yeah, they would have, baby health.
They have 20 health.
They would either die or be baby health.
Have 20. So, moving it to 130 is a very, very good idea. Now, the thing that I've heard people talk about with this is it shouldn't have done both. I disagree. I think it should, for one reason and one reason alone. They're changing the target acquisition on it, which is good, but that projectile can still bounce 3 times.
And in theory, if you have a bad positioned team, the knife can hit one target, bounce to the next, and then bounce back to the main target. In theory. I have never seen it happen in PvP, but I see it happen all the time in PvE.
Yeah. So, that's the thing. I don't mind the changes to Withering Blade, the TA, the target acquisition nerf, the damage nerf, or the slow nerf, because it's so fucking powerful now. This is gonna put it in line. I agree that this, think about it. How much damage do 3 blades from Blade Barrage do? About 150 with burn, right? How much does an explosive throwing knife do? About 160. A precision throwing knife does about 130 on a body shot with with a 1-hit kill and a headshot, but it has that delay. Arc staff melees just do the flat out 100 damage on melee. So having a throwable melee that can bounce 3 times and still do 130 damage is still powerful. That's a lot. For context, that is still a one-tap headshot from any 140, any 120 from DMT, and you are now a one-shot body shot you're still a one-shot body shot from any sniper rifle. You need 2 bolts from any fusion rifle to die, so on and so forth. That still makes your Guardian incredibly weak, but what it does is it gives you a chance to escape.
Although, slow stacks make that very difficult to do so anyway.
I agree,
generally
but it's a lot
do...
easier to slowly crawl around a corner for 5 seconds and then get to cover and dodge than it is to stand there for 5 seconds and not be able to do jack shit.
Right. The issue with slow is that slow is a massive penalty to everything. And the only thing you can do reasonably if you start the engagement slow, the only thing you can do reasonably is hope they either miss their shots or they were already low when you started the engagement, because you can get...
I will say, my personal opinion is you should be able to use your class ability while slowed until you have 6 stacks or more. That's my personal belief. I don't think that'll happen, but...
The problem with that is the only class ability that is movement related wouldn't make sense. The Hunter one is the only one that's movement related, and that's
you would also still be able to double jump. You would still still be able to double jump too.
Yeah, but the Titan and the Warlock not being able to use theirs while slowed doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the Hunter being not
the Hunter
being
one does
makes sense. And the problem is they don't want to single out a class as being the worst class. So they had to do it to all 3.
Yeah.
I don't like that double Withering Blade doesn't freeze a target, because that's 2 melee charges. I understand that it bounces and it has that better range. A lot of the time, though, that bounce hit off of a wall just completely whiffs. I've not had very good success throwing a knife around a corner at somebody who just escaped from me and it actually landing.
It takes a little bit of practice. I still have issues with it.
Yeah, it's not a very
mind you, I don't use stasis in PvP anymore. I quit. I fucking hate using stasis in PvP. I find it boring.
I just don't take it off.
Yeah, so... But the other thing... So... I don't know. We'll have to see the Withering Blade change. I personally I'm not opposed to what they have said so far. I want to see it in play, obviously, before I give a final verdict.
Yeah.
The one I am excited for is the Behemoth Changes.
Yes.
And the biggest one is freeze on cast.
Yes.
Holy fuck!
It will not do that. The Behemoth Changes, except for no, yep. I think that's it. I think the only change here that specifies that it's different in PvE is the AoE. The AoE is staying in PvE. In PvP,
we'll still freeze
the AoE is not.
It will still freeze in PvE. But the fact that the damage resistance is now half, which is just the same as Fist of Havoc. The cost of using Shiver Strike is 7%. The combo of Shiver Strike into a heavy slam attack is now the full super energy of both. This is good. Now, I do like what Bungie did, which this is not a nerf. This is actually a buff. But it increases your downwards velocity to Shiver Striking players when they are slowed to pull them out of the air. So what this is trying to say is if you throw a Dusk Field and then Shiver Strike a target, it pulls them down with more force. Bungie wants that to be a combo with Behemoth Titan.
Inverse.
That you throw a Dusk Field and you start... Yeah. What's up?
It's Shiver Striking Titans are pulled downward harder when they are slowed.
Oh, I've completely read it wrong. Increase downward to Shiver Striking players when they are slowed to pull them out of the... Oh, so it's to cause dodging capabilities. Okay,
yeah,
never mind.
It's because Shiver Strike was the most useful mobility tool because it didn't get shut off by slow.
Okay, gotcha.
Because for Shiver Strike, you go until you hit the ground or a wall, essentially. So if you get any upwards momentum at all, you could go for the full length of your Shiver Strike and then punch whoever you're going at in the face and then send him into a wall and probably kill him. This just makes them crash the ground if they get slowed while they're in the animation.
Exactly. Gotcha. As far as Warlock, I think the increasing the tracking on Winter's Wrath is good. I think that the tracking strength decaying. I'm interested to see how this change goes.
If you're very close to the Warlock, the tracking will be very good. If you're very far away from them, out up to their maximum range, the tracking will fall off. Meaning,
yeah, but think about
you'll be more likely to escape them at longer range. Think about
this. Now tracking strength decays from its max value over 10 seconds instead of 2.2. So now the tracking is just as aggressive for 5 times as long.
Right. It might... let's see. It decays from its max value over 10 seconds instead of 2.2. So it went... Depending on how they mean that might mean that the tracking decayed right at the end of the flight time in that 2.2 seconds, whereas now it's decaying over the course of the entire flight path.
Gotcha.
And they increased the size of the detonation of those projectiles a little bit.
That's true. And the detonation now starts at the largest and scales down to 40%.
So the closer you are, the more likely you are to get caught in that freeze, and the further away you are, the more likely you are to escape, which is huge for that super, because their Shatter Wave thing that they can do, which is basically free for the super, is massive and will kill you if you are frozen anywhere in its range. Even if you are on the, taint hair of the end of it, you'll die.
Props to Bungie, too, for, what was I going to say? Penumbral Blast being taken down to 30.
Penumbral Blast is the reason why I don't like Withering Blade not being able to freeze. I understand that Penumbral Blast Blast requires a direct line of sight, and I understand that it doesn't track as hard or at all. I don't remember if it tracks at all. But the Warlock being able to one-charge freeze someone for a free kill strikes me a little bit the wrong way when the hunter...
Yeah, but it's only at 2 seconds. It's only 2 seconds long, which is half the time of what you would get if you froze someone with Withering, because that's a 5-second freeze.
But also they have Ice Flare bolts that triggers off of anything they freeze and then shatter, which can then bounce to a target and freeze more.
No,
Warlock...
Also, not to mention the fact they've also increased the TA range of Ice Flare by 33% and the turning speed.
Right. So Ice Flare bolts are actually going to be a lot more threatening. And the Warlock has a I freeze you button. And nobody else does that isn't a grenade ability.
Yeah, but to be fair, they have to have a line of sight. It has to be a direct impact. Hunters can throw Withering Blades around walls, and Titans have Shiver Strike.
Titans have no direct freezes that aren't a grenade.
To Bungie's credit, it's what will make Stasis Warlock unique.
Also, Stasis Warlock has put down Rift, freeze everything in the area,
which goes through walls.
That is my counter argument to why can't Hunter use 2 melee charges to freeze one target reliably, maybe 2.
I think why Bungie did it was because you could do Gambler's Dodge and then throw a shuriken, and that would be enough. So what Bungie, I think, should do is instead of making it from 60 to 40, make it from 60 to 50. So if you do a dodge and you throw a shuriken, it's not going to freeze a target, but if you do a double shuriken, it would.
Yeah. And then Chaos Reach is in here for some reason. It just decreases the amount of super energy refunded when canceling Chaos Reach.
It is not just for some reason.
No, I'm saying that it's included in the Warlock Stasis Changes, and not in like a, this post is about the Stasis Changes, and everything else about it is Stasis, and then there's Chaos Reach.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, I guess, because you're throwing it in with the Warlock section, but thank God Bungie has made
As
this
to
change,
how much it's being reduced by, we don't know.
I hope if you cancel within the first 2 seconds, you lose your fucking super.
If you cancel early enough, you get 33% of your super back currently. After this patch, I don't know how much more they could lower it without, removing the feature entirely.
I think Bungie's going to nerf it by half.
Do you think it's going to be the maximum possible refund is going to be 15%?
Yeah. Because a Chaos Reach right now can get 4 supers and trials with 100 int.
And with Geomags. Because it only has to recharge 80% of the super. So the more it gets left with, the less it has to generate. In current, if you just pop it, do a little zap, and then close it, because it kills in 1 tick. If you just do a little zap and turn it off.
2.
Either way. Those ticks happen so fast, it doesn't even fucking matter. I have never lived through a chaos reach.
I've gotten out of a few.
I have tried to be behind cover where they no longer had line of sight on me, and I still died to chaos reach.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
So it doesn't matter. You're pretty much dead. It's rare to escape if they know where you're at. So if currently they turn off their super, they get about 30% of it back. Then they get Geomag boost at 85%. They only have to generate a half a super, and that's the that is the Chaos Reach problem.
Yeah.
Dusk Fields are having their rate of slow halved, but they're having the pull range, which is the big deal. Pull range decreased from 9.5 meters to about 6.
Yeah,
that is also a PvP exclusive change.
Yeah, the slow stacks when they hit players in PvE now does 10. It goes up by 5 instead of 10, so it's gonna go, it's gonna be good.
Duskfield was already really easy to escape if you were already moving, so I'm not really sure what this does, because it doesn't solve the problem.
Bungie's whole yes it does. Bungie's whole reason for doing this is because if you are running you can not be anywhere near that fucking Dusk
yes,
Field.
The impulse, the pull impulse is definitely a part of the problem.
But so the other thing is though is you get slowed by 10 right off the bat. And so if you're flying by or shiver striking, for example, and then that Dusk Field pulls you into it and you're in the center, you will freeze. This gives you a chance to escape.
I have actually never been frozen by a Dusk Field grenade that didn't catch me standing still already.
I fucking have.
Maybe I'm just running into people who aren't good with throwing their grenades, but I have never
that
been
frozen. You're pretty shit at PvP, you know? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I would say that would explain a lot. You're pretty shit at PvP.
Wow. I have never been frozen by a Dusk Field that I wasn't already moving. Like, if they caught me while I was standing still, I just continued to stand still because I already knew I couldn't get out. But if I was already moving, I got out at like 8 or 9.
This gives players a chance to escape, and I'm not opposed to that.
The issue I have with it is not so much that it gives the players a chance to escape, it's that the slow debuff is still the slow debuff, whether you have 1 stack out of 100 or 99 out of 100.
Yeah, Bungie needs to work on that next.
Because the slow debuff is a massive, like, page-long list, basically, of debuffs to the target, including accuracy, the obvious movement things.
We could do an entire episode just on that.
Yeah, it would be a short episode, but we're not going to.
We're not going to.
Yeah, I mean, as it is, this one's running into the 2-hour mark.
Real quick, just real quick to wrap up Stasis here, because we said this video was going to be an hour.
Looking at it crossing the hour 52:30 mark.
Yeah, about there. They've reduced the damage of stasis crystals where they only do 55 damage max, which means instead of you have to now break 4 crystals to kill a guardian, which is good. I agree. Whisper of Chains now gives you only 5% damage resistance while you're in super. So what Bungie's doing by doing that is they're making sure that Behemoth Titans don't have a shit ton of damage resistance on top of that.
Right, they're making sure that they don't just make up for having the damage resistance by doing 1 ground slam and staying within their field of ice.
Real quick, your damage resistance while you're in your super is still 25%, and it will only affect damage in PvP from other guardians. In PvE, if you pop Behemoth Titan and you're running Whisper of Chains, you still get you will stack 25 on top of the 60 or 50 that you will have depending on when you use it.
Currently.
And then they're fixing a Whisper of Torment bug. I've never seen the Whisper of Torment bug.
I know this bug,
but I have never seen it.
An enemy barricade cannot kill you, but
yes,
it deals damage.
Oh, this is for grenades. Got you.
Yep. Whisper of Torment is take damage, gain grenade charge.
Take grenade.
If you stand in an enemy's barricade, it can't kill you, still does damage. So if you kill a Titan who put up their barricade, just stand in it for free grenade charge.
And then the final thing is they've made stasis fragments from Crucible size. Stasis fragments Crucible quests easier to finish because they did take fucking forever.
I want to go back to the Whisper of Chains real quick just to make sure that we're clear on what we're saying there. What they're saying with the change is that you're only getting a 5% increase to the damage resistance that you have, not as opposed to the 25 you get now. So a Whisper of Chains
with a Titan.
Jesus Christ! I just realized how big that number is right now. Like right now, a Whisper of Chains Behemoth Titans does their 1 ground slam, stands in their ice, and they have an 85% damage reduction right now.
Yeah.
I just fucking realized that. And then after this, they will go down to a 55.
55.
So most of the way back to what they are now without Whisper of Change.
Which is still one-shot headshotable.
Yeah.
85 on the other hand. Good luck.
Yeah. 85 is just no. You're not touching that.
And again, you're still gonna get not 85. You're gonna get 75 in PvP. I mean in PvE, but that's still a shit ton.
Yeah. Actually, that doesn't specify that it's a PvP change only.
For the damage resistance?
Yeah, it says reduced Whisper of Change damage resistance bonus while in super from 25% to 5%. Damage resistance when not in super is unchanged. Only affects damage from other guardians. There it is. It doesn't say resistance in PvE. It says damage from other guardians.
No. But remember, because the Behemoth resistance is going from 60 to 50.
Yes, and in So it'll still be 75, like you said, in PvE, because it says this only affects damage from other guardians. They wrote it differently than they wrote everywhere else in the article.
I know, it's fucking stupid. But that's what that's what Stasis is. That's all the changes that are coming up, and I'm hopeful for the future.
I feel like this is going to change how many of certain classes we see. I feel like we will probably see less Stasis Hunters, because they lost a large part of their kit that was what made them the most
I think you're
viable.
Gonna see it. I think you're going to see a lot of Stasis Warlocks start to run cold snaps for ice flares.
I mean, you can get ice flares off of any freeze, but the instant freeze of a cold snap is hard to argue with.
Well, then you get more ice flare. You get the cold snap grenade, because if a cold snap, I mean, that's the thing, is you're going to get.
Because a cold snap grenade with ice flares turns into 3 instead of like 1.
Exactly. And then Behemoth Titans are going to be balanced. I don't think this is going to nerf Behemoth Titans. This is going to just put them on par with other supers.
I don't see Titan and Warlock stasis uses going down any. I see Hunters either completely going away or significantly reducing.
I don't know. I'll see, because the thing is about Stasis is the fragments are so fucking powerful.
Yeah, and
I could see people still running Stasis Hunter even if they didn't like the Withering Blade change, or if they don't like the super or anything like that, just for Whisper of Hedrons in PvP.
Yeah, having re-looked over all of these things, I didn't realize how many, like, the big thing they did with all of these nerfs was they reduced how many quick access easy freezes there are. And that's important. That's important. Slows are okay, because they're very short-lived. Freezes and total lockdowns are not very okay. But then I look at the Warlock and remember, oh yeah, it has an aspect that lets them do an AoE freeze whenever their class ability is up. Oh yeah, they can AoE freeze with Ice Flare bolts and if they freeze something else. Oh yeah, they have a free I freeze you button. So Warlock still has a lot of
viability.
You're frozen. Everyone else lost their ability to freeze.
Yeah.
But Warlocks still have that freeze. So Warlocks might see a surge just for the lockdown free kills.
I'd rather deal with fucking Stasis Warlocks than goddamn fucking Chaos Reach at this point.
Yeah. Depending on how severe that Chaos Reach change is. I can see the Chaos Reach counter stasising supers switching to stasis themselves, becoming the very thing they swore to fight.
Artorias looking motherfuckers.
Yep.
But holy fuck.
Yeah, I think that we accidentally 2 hours again.
I mean, I don't mind.
I mean, this one's not 2 hours and 15 minutes. We accidentally just 2 hours.
Yeah, I hope the audience doesn't mind. That's because we spent like 40 minutes on Felt Winters.
I don't think it was 40 minutes, but it took us a long time to get off of the 120s, the weapon variants, and the Felt Winters.
Yeah, and then get into the actual PvP.
Yeah.
But I think that shows our passion.
Yeah.
So,
like, I don't play a whole lot of PvP, but I do have opinions.
And
on
even
these
you
things.
had a lot to say, exactly.
I do have opinions on these things. I do play enough to have opinions. It's just that I don't have a lot of opinion or experience from the dealing out side. It's all on the receiving side. I am always the victim, quote unquote, of these atrocities.
That's a good word for it. But I think that's where we're gonna leave this off. Now, in our next episode, we're gonna talk about PvE based stasis and how we think it's doing. It's gonna be a lot more positive of an episode, if you will. And we're also gonna talk about Grandmasters.
Yeah,
we're gonna just touch on Grandmasters in the episode, elaborate,
and a stasis discussion on how we feel it is in the PvE environment. There's probably not a whole lot to talk about, but we might talk about what we would like to see in the future.
Exactly. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the other thing I want to cover in the next episode is we're gonna talk about the artifact.
Ooh, yeah.
We're going to talk about the artifact and the effect it has on PvE, because it doesn't really have that big of an effect on PvP. Yes, it does give things like unflinching sniper aim, scavenger, shit like that. So those are factors, but it has a much bigger impact on PvE.
Especially with the weird interactions sometimes.
Exactly. So on top of talking about Stasis and Grandmasters, we're going to talk about the artifact and our personal favorite mods. I can tell you right now, Sundering Gaze is fucking broken.
Yeah, but it's weird, but we'll save that for when we get to it.
We'll save that for another one. But as far as this episode is concerned, thank you for joining in with us. It's been a fun one. It's been a long one.
Yeah,
but
I do want to say here now again at the tail end, I apologize if anything comes through from whatever, illness and stuff I'm suffering, if I've been breathing heavy into the mic and I just didn't catch it, or anything that might have come from that. I actually did in the middle of this stifle a fucking cough that I just had to nope, don't do that. I don't want to make that work for me.
I had my roommate knock on my door halfway through, so
yeah. So,
but
I apologize if something interrupted my flow in that. At the time of recording this, I've been dealing with some sort of illness for 2 months now, and it's just not...
Unfortunately, we are not guardians.
Yeah, we still get sick.
So, but we want to put the episodes out.
Yeah.
Because we like doing this. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. It's
and we hope that anyone that listens to it enjoys listening to it.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be toughing through it for 2 hours, with whatever I've got going on. That
not to mention
progressively gets worse the longer we do this.
Yeah, and not to mention the hours of editing that come after and everything else in the review process if we feel like we have to review it, or with the Exotic Catalyst episode, what we had thought about doing and what we actually ended up doing and everything else. There's a lot.
Yeah.
So, but that's where we're going to leave off.
Thank you all for watching.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to our rambling tirades. If you can't tell, our soapboxes are well sanded and polished. And thank you all for stepping into the Traveler's Void.
Yeah.